Even saints who are otherwise faithful can be derailed by the steady beat of Babylon's band.
Brothers and sisters, President Nelson has asked that I handle the business of the solemn assembly for which we are gathered today. This is an occasion of great significance for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints throughout the world. Dating from October 10th, 1880, when John Taylor was sustained to succeed Brigham Young,
I have spoken previously about a needed course correction in the way we refer to the name of the church. Since that time, much has been done to accomplish this correction. We have gone to these extraordinary efforts. Because when we remove the Lord's name from the name of His church, we inadvertently remove Him as the central focus of our worship and our lives. It is important to remember that while we revere Joseph Smith as a prophet of God, this is not the Church of Joseph Smith, nor is it the Church of Mormon. This is the Church of Jesus Christ. He decried exactly what his church should be called. Quote, "For thus shall my church be called in the last days, even the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." Close quote.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. Moses, chapter 5, verse 31. Cain, after slaying his brother Abel, says, "Truly I am Mahan, the master of this great secret, that I may murder and get gain." And so he was called Master Mahan. And there are those in ex-Mormonism who believe that it's Master Mason, that all Freemasonry was bad. But wait, Joseph Smith Sr. was a Master Mason in Canandaigua, New York, and was a Master Mason during 9/11, 1826, when William Morgan was working on a book in Canandaigua, New York, where he got arrested falsely. And it was Masons who rescued him out of the country. That's interesting. What was going on in 1826? And whatever happened to that book? There is a big lie perpetuated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is, that the Church of Jesus Christ are Christian and have Jesus Christ as their Christ. 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2. Yea, I make a record in the language of my father, which consists of the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. White supremacists are racist, sexist, bigoted, neglect the poor, and they're also religious bigots. They themselves are Christian, God-fearing Jesus Christ people. Nonetheless, Jews will not replace them, as their chant goes. They hate the Jews. So you remember Brad Wilcox? Yeah, Mr. Racist and Sexist. Church silenced the press on that. He never did get back with the Black Student Union at BYU. He blew them off. And you've heard Oakes with his racism, sexism. I saw Exmo Lex. She did a video the other day about how the church feels about women. That's called sexism. Good for Exmo Lex for finally doing a video exposing the church, where I've been doing it this whole time. People would rather listen to her talk about how the church is racist, sexist, bigoted, neglects the poor rather than me. I understand. But are you really going to not listen just because you don't like the presentation of it? You're not going to believe unless it comes from someone else? And so, in the Joseph Smith history, verse 19, Mormons claim that this is Jesus. And it's not. It's learning of the Jews, so it can't be Jesus. I was answered that I must join none of them, referring to Christian churches. And thus, why would you create your own Christian church if you're supposed to join none of the Christian churches? You don't want to be the same as Christian churches and then claim you're the one true Christian church. That would be weird. You'd want to go around telling people you're a Jewish learning church, learning of the Jews. Be honest with your brand, for they were all wrong. And the personage, no Jesus, huh? Who addressed me said that all their creeds were an abomination in his sight. What is that first creed of Christianity that is an abomination in this personage's sight, whom we call Jesus, rather than the learning of the Jews concerning our Christ? Well, it's the Nicene Creed of Constantine in 325 CE at the Council of Nicaea. At that council, all of the different bishops had a different Christ, and they couldn't agree as to who should be the Christ. Should it be Hercules? Should it be Moses? Joseph of Egypt? Perseus? Emmanuel? Nope, they couldn't decide, so Constantine decided for them. It'll be Jesus, the reverse name of Isaiah. That will be the Christian Christ now. And he'll be a literal historical character rather than apocalyptic literature, which is the manner of prophesying among the Jews. To use character names that have meaning to tell a story prophesying about a future time period, like the book of Revelation. They aren't real dragons, they aren't real serpents, they aren't real beasts, they aren't real flying horses, they aren't real frogs. It's not Jesus. Apocalyptic literature. Story of Samson, gone over with you. Paleo-Hebrew meaning, Sun King. The N at the end of Shemesh for sun in Hebrew is a suffix determinative. And so if Jesus is not our Christ, that means that the Book of Mormon's use of Jesus is not to be understood as Jesus. That Jesus is not historical, like Constantine declared. So even though we refer to Jesus coming from outer space to the people of the land of Bountiful after the great destructions that occurred, supposedly is right after the time frame that is made historical by Constantine, it's not historical. It's the learning of the Jews, which means it's apocalyptic literature. The Book of Mormon is apocalyptic literature. It's talking about the latter days. And so 3rd Nephi chapter 11 verse 8, we must therefore tie to Revelation chapter 19, where Jesus comes from outer space on a flying horse. The Book of Mormon does tell us to refer to the Book of Revelation. So why are Mormons perpetuating the big lie? Why are the prophets for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints perpetuating the name of the big lie of abomination? Oh, well, the great and abominable church is the church founded by the devil. Joseph Smith gave a sermon, 19 July 1840. It was never published by Brigham Young in the Doctrine and Covenants. He's referring to his parable that he gave that was published in our Doctrine and Covenants in section 101 and starting in verse 43. In verse 51 talks about the enemy coming, and so then it says the paragraph, then the enemy shall come as a thief in the night. That's verse 51. But I will draw your attention to the latter part of that passage. But before this time shall be these who are now my friends. Well, he's speaking to the Quorum of the 12, Brigham Young, among other Mormons. But the Quorum of the 12 with President Brigham Young are in the audience. These who are now my friends shall become my enemies, and shall seek to take my life, and there are those now before me, Quorum of the 12, with President Brigham Young, who will more furiously pursue me, more diligently seek my life, and be more bloodthirsty upon the track than ever were the Missouri mobbers. You say among yourselves, as did them of old? Who them of old? Is it I, and is it I? Royal Skousen knows. He put the footnote reference to Mark chapter 14, to the Last Supper, where Jesus was with the 12 apostles, the disciples of Jesus, whom he exposed that Judas would betray him and would seek to murder him. The 12 apostles were in the audience with Brigham Young. Joseph Smith was assassinated. Oh, wait, there were two of Brigham Young's apostles in the Carthage jail who didn't get assassinated. Just Joseph and Hiram. Joseph Smith had a six-shooter. It was Wilcock, who came to the jail to visit and gave Joseph the six-shooter. My third great-grandfather was in there overnight. Joseph put his head on his shoulder. My third great-grandfather gave Joseph Smith his single shot before Wilcock came. And so Hiram was given my third great-grandfather's single shot. The mob came. Joseph Smith was waiting for him at the top of the stairs with the six-shooter. They never got to the door. There was no battle at the door. All that is a lie. From who? Oh, yeah, the two who survived. Huh. Well, that's strange. Why would they lie? So Joseph Smith shot 3 balls, chased the mob out. And while they were tending to the wounded, Joseph heard a shot in the room. Hiram was lying on the floor. He'd been shot. Huh. There was John Taylor standing over his dead body. Joseph Smith turned and fired. One of them hit the watch of John Taylor. John Taylor then ran under the bed like a coward. Joseph Smith then went to his brother, weeping and mourning for the murder. And then guess who got himself a six-shooter, seeing that Joseph Smith got a six-shooter, and went to get wine for the Last Supper sacrament? Yeah. Hiding in the corner that whole time, Willard Richards came from behind the corner, from behind Joseph Smith, and shot him in the back, and took his body and dumped it out the window to where the mob was already there because they got chased out, and with their rifles commenced firing over and over and over and over and over. To make sure Hiram was actually dead, Willard Richards then took his six-shooter, stood over the body of Hiram, shot him in the face. The blood stain still remains to this day. How did Joseph Smith know? Joseph Smith prophesied of the name of the church that would usurp his church, of a future president of that great and abominable church. In section 115, for thus shall is future tense, means in the future. Thus shall my church be called in the last days. Not then. In the future, it will be called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The God who is an abomination. The great and abominable church with the abominable Christ.